The Austin, Texas housing market is in big trouble. I'm going to share a lot of stats regarding what's happening right now in Austin regarding inventory levels, price reductions, and home prices, and much more. I'm also going to share some stats regarding new houses for sale in Austin, Texas as well. Some pretty jaw-dropping stats I'm going to share in today's video. So here's an article I found on ResiClub Analytics.com. They looked at home prices for 300 of the biggest US cities, how it compares to the peak back in 2022. Among the 300 biggest cities, Trenton, New Jersey is up by 13.3%. All these other metros in the top 10 are over 10%, much of them located in Connecticut. In contrast, among these 300 biggest metros, the biggest decrease compared to the peak of 2022 is Austin, Texas, down by 18.7%. Leading the nation by far amongst these other metros. I'm only sharing that because the trends I'm going to share in today's video all point to downward home prices in the coming months in Austin, Texas. And on top of that, in that metro, they're not only down from 2022, but also down compared to 1 year ago. Also, according to ResiClub.com, we are starting to see national active listings rise. So inventory, according to Realtor.com, is up by about 35% compared to May of 2023. However, we're still well below pre-pandemic levels, down by about 33% from May of 2019 on a national level. However, the stats is much different looking at Austin though. So here's inventory levels on a national level ever since January of 2017. As you guys can see here, we have 787,000 houses for sale. This is according to ResiClub, but they use data from Realtor.com. So just under 790,000 houses for sale. This is a 3-year high, as you guys can see, but we're still well below 2017 through 2020. Approximately, half as many houses for sale compared to 2017 through 2019. However, looking at Austin, Texas, this is a great search tool. This is the greater Austin area. I mean, this is just absolutely mind-blowing. 9,906 houses for sale as of the end of May this year. And that, of course, is at least a 7-year high for any month going back to January of 2017. Now, something you guys should be aware of, inventory is seasonal though, right? I believe these numbers are not seasonally adjusted. So as you can see in 2017, inventory peaked in August. 18, it basically peaked in August, September, and October, right around the same amount of houses for sale. In 2019, inventory peaked in July. So I'm mentioning this because here we are in May, the most recent stats we have from Realtor.com, and inventory is at least a 7-year high for any month. So there's some room for inventory to get even higher as we approach the more high season for inventory, which tend to be in the late summer months. Absolutely mind-blowing, especially compared to the levels we had back in 2021, less than 2,000 houses for sale. Now it's approaching 10,000. Now here's another way to look at this. Here is the US as a whole, the greater Austin area, and also Hartford, Connecticut, which is one of the areas in which home prices have increased the most on a national level due to a lack of houses for sale. Every housing market is different, right? So for the US as a whole, this is inventory levels for existing houses going back to May of 2019. So on a national level, we're down by about 33%, whereas in Austin, Texas, up by 35%. In contrast, the greater Hartford area, down 79%. Now look at Austin as a whole though. I mean, this is absolutely mind-blowing. 3-year change up by 409% compared to the national average, up by 76%. 2 years up by a whopping 176% compared to the national average, up by 64%. Now, something that did catch my attention though is that even though we're seeing this giant increase over the past 2 to 5 years, compared to 1 year ago, the national average is up by 35%, whereas in Austin, only up by 30%. So what this is telling me is that, of course, we had a big increase of inventory over the past several years, We're not seeing that surge this year compared to 1 year ago. I'll have some news to share regarding that because the number of new listings, according to Redfin, has actually been going down in Austin, Texas as of late. Here's yet another way to look at this on a national level. Here is inventory levels from this May compared to May of 2019. So again, every housing market's different, but as you can see, areas basically shaded in green are areas in which inventory levels are up greatly compared to 5 years ago. In contrast, areas in dark red are big decreases, which is much of the the Northeast as well as the Midwest. In contrast, many counties in Texas, as well as some counties in Florida, are experiencing big gains of inventory overall. Another way to look at this is this right here. Again, we're seeing giant decreases in the Northeast. Look at, Newark, New Jersey, down 52% from 5 years ago, whereas in Austin, Texas, up by 35%. Lakeland, Winter Haven, Florida, up by 43%. Big gains also in Northport, Sarasota, Florida as well. In contrast, we're seeing big decreases in San Diego, down by nearly 50%, which makes sense given the fact that in San Diego, they have all-time record highs in home prices. And also for the city as a whole, at least for April's numbers, we have all-time record highs for home prices in California. Something I found to be really interesting as well, looking at Texas as a whole, Austin, Texas is, kind of leading the state here by the big gains of up by 35%. We're also seeing big gains in Killeen and Temple, Texas as well, up by 77%. Whereas in Dallas, Texas, down by 9.9%. And also Waco, up by 43%. Whereas in Houston, Texas, they still have about 17% fewer houses for sale right now compared to May of 2019. In contrast, in San Antonio, Texas, they're up by 19.7% from 5 years ago. Going back to this chart, not only do we have the most amount of houses for sale this May compared to any other month going back to January of 2017. This, by the way, is for existing houses. Take a look at this. This is according to newhomesource.com. You can type in any area. So if you guys are curious about other parts of the US, you can just type it in right here. So in Austin, Texas, I'm only looking at single family houses. Everything else is open here. The only filter I used. Anyways, looking at new houses for sale. This could be dirt lots, a house under construction, or a completed house. There's 6,340 new houses for sale. And also on top of that, there's 490 communities in which home builders are building houses there right now. So a surge of existing houses for sale, but also a giant amount of brand new houses or brand new home construction to purchase as well. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, let's also talk about the share of price drop because of course that has been absolutely skyrocketing as well. Both on a national level, but especially in Austin. So on a national level, this is according to altosresearch.com. I'll provide a link in my video description for all these sources. Some of these charts here, you have to be a premium member of ResiClub In any case, they allowed me to share these charts with you guys. So hope you guys get some value out of today's video. Anyways, looking at a national level, regarding the share price drops, it's up by, or not up by, the share price drops is at 36%. So approximately one of every 3 houses for sale have reduced their asking prices. For Texas as a whole, that share is at 39%, so slightly above the national average. In contrast, in Austin, Texas, that share is at 53%, far higher than the statewide average at 39%. And the national average at 36%. On top of that, the share price drops in Austin at 53% is at least a 5-year high during the same time frame. 1 year ago at this time, 50%. 2 years ago, 33%. 2021, 16%. 2020, 35%. And looking at pre-COVID levels, it was at 42%. Something that caught my attention as well is that at 53%, this is actually not too far off the peak that was set back in October of 2022 at 64%. And again, just like inventory levels, the share price drops tends to peak in the winter months. And here we are in early June, and we're very close to the peaks that we saw in 2023 and 2022. Now, something that is also different though in 2022, let me just kind of zoom in here. So in 2022, the trough was set back in early March of that year at 12%. By the time we hit June 10th of that year, it was at 33%. So share price drops basically tripled in the first, 5 months of the year. Whereas this year, the trough was more or less in mid-March as well at 43%. Now it's at 53%. So the share price drops was absolutely skyrocketing in early 2022, whereas this year it's still going up, but we started at a relatively high level already at 43% compared to only 12% in the trough of 2022. So having said that, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to higher levels this year in the winter months compared to the past couple of years, given the fact that we started at a relatively high level already this year. All right, changing gears again, let's talk about a new report from the Austin Board of Realtors. They looked at a lot of different metrics for the greater Austin area, including Round Rock and Georgetown metro areas. So the median sold price is down by less than 1%. And also it's at about $460,000. Closed home sales down 13% year over year. These are figures from May this year compared to May of last year. So what really caught my attention is that closed home sales decreased by 13%. Pending sales, a measure of contracts being signed between buyers and sellers, fell by 2.5%. This is wild given the fact there's 38% more houses for sale right now compared to a year ago, and new listings increased by 16.3%. So supply increasing where demand or sales decreasing, which is contributing to the rise of inventory in Austin. Also, the months of inventory is at 4.9 months. That's a big gain, up by 1.5 months from 12 months ago. Also, on average, houses in Austin are selling for about 4.5 percentage points less than the seller's list price. That means that ratio is at 95.5%. 1 year ago is at 94.2%, which means, of course, that houses are selling closer to the asking price this May compared to 1 year ago. But something to keep in mind though, anything that has to do with a closed home sale, this is days in the market, the average sale price to a list price ratio, and also the median sale price is a lagging indicator what the housing market was like approximately 1 to 2 months ago when the home buyer got their offer accepted. Leading indications are new listings, active listings, pending sales, etc. Let's also take a look at Redfin's data center for Austin. So new listings have been decreasing ever since April this year. This line, of course, is this year. The black line is 2022. The orange line is 21. The blue line is last year. So new listings have been coming down ever since April, which is pretty wild because active listings has been on the rise, right? Active listings have been increasing every single week, basically ever since February this year. Big picture, what this is telling me is that because active listings are still rising, despite new listings basically going like this means we're seeing a lack of contracts being signed and of course a lack of home sales, and that's contributing to the rise of active listings or housing inventory right now. So going back to new listings, that's up by 5.1% year over year, but not as great as the 25% increase we saw in April this year. So new listings increased by 5%, whereas pending sales decreased by 5%. So we're seeing 5% more new listings, yet we're seeing 5% fewer contracts being signed. An imbalance between supply and demand, which is an indication of a softening housing market. Now, speaking of that, here is the number of houses sold. It's at least a 3-year low right now and down by 5% year over year. That's the same for pending sales, also a 3-year low during the same time frame. In contrast, active listings is at least a 3-year high right now, also up by 17% year over year. Let's also take a look at home sold prices in Austin. So I made a video a few days ago regarding a weekly update from Redfin. Out of the 50 most populous metros, Austin, Texas is down the most from 1 year ago. And it's down by 4% year over year right now. Also, it's at least a 3-year low during the same time frame as well. 455,000 right now. At this time in 2022, you're looking at $545,000. So the median sold price is down by about $90,000 from 2 years ago. Let's also discuss the week supply as well. That's at 21.1 weeks, which means more or less there's about 5 months supply in Austin, at least a 3-year high as well. One last slide I want to share with you guys is the average sale price to final list price ratio in Austin, Texas. That ratio is more or less 98%, which means over the past 4 weeks, houses on average sold for 2 percentage points less than the seller's asking price. Now, what's absolutely wild about this is that's more or less in par with last year's levels at also the same level, but at a 98%, technically 97.87%, but 98%. Looking at this time in 2022, it was at 104, basically 105%. So 2 years ago, houses on average were selling for about 5 percentage points over the seller's original asking price. Now they're selling for about 2% below asking. Also looking at 2021 at this time, houses on average were selling for about 9% over asking on average. That is absolutely insane. And now they're selling again for 2 percentage points less than the seller's asking price. So please leave me a comment below with your thoughts regarding today's video. My biggest takeaway is this right here. I mean, inventory absolutely skyrocketing, and we're only in May. Inventory tends to peak during the late summer months. And here we are in May, the highest amount of houses for sale for any other month since at least, keyword there, at least January of 2017. That right there is a recipe for disaster, which is one of the main reasons why I'm making this video, because that is just absolutely mind-blowing. Just really quickly, let me look at Hartford, Connecticut, just to provide some context regarding how crazy this is. It's basically moving the opposite direction, right? Austin, Texas going like this, Hartford going like this. Only 924 houses for sale in Hartford, Connecticut, compared to around 4,500 to 5,400 looking at pre-COVID levels. A lack of supply in Hartford, Connecticut, whereas a glut of inventory in Austin, Texas. So yeah, please leave me a comment below your thoughts regarding today's video. I appreciate you guys watching today's video so much. And of course, I appreciate you guys for supporting my YouTube channel. Hope you guys have an awesome day and look forward to seeing you on the next video.